preliminary consensus could be reached on.
Correct.
These 7 check points. And just to focus discussion a little bit here, I wonder if we could just go right down
Sure.
through with your agreement or support of the suggestion that if we would just take each one of these and say, where do we stand on this one? What do we need to get consensus, or what should we be looking at, and then move to the next one? And we might discover that we can't get consensus on any of them. We might discover that we need more information on 1 or 2 or 3 or all of them. But that's basically what we need to move this discussion further along. And I think otherwise the comments and so forth take us off in different directions that we might be able to fold into these.
Well, from the committee, we've been having ongoing discussions about these. I don't think it's going to be anything other than a mutual agreement moving these things along. I don't think it'll be very long to develop answers to all these 7 items. I really don't, because we've been talking about it for so long. I think the 2 biggest questions should be the boundary and or whether or not to think of the development of this agreement as a pre-annexation step or just come to an agreement on this one item. To me, those are the 2 big questions and not these 7 items. Leave these up to the committee. You're being informed what the discussions will be by listing these 7 things. And if you so wish, have the county and the city attorney start attending. Other than that, I'm willing to take any input, but I don't think these things would be hard to come up with, to come back to you either again in an informational setting or in several different agreements. I don't know. Does that kind of answer your question?
Well, I guess here that I guess what I'm suggesting is something that's premature. And I'm just, obviously, we're not meeting with the city and county, but for a meeting to take place of the county with the city, the thing I think that we may need to, as a board, may need to understand is what would we take to the city to develop agreement or see where we have points of disagreement. And, just to go forward now and say, well, a committee should go and meet with them and try to move in this direction. I'm not so sure that if I were on that committee, which I'm not, that I would know what the geographic area for the agreement should be, even as we enter into discussion. We could spend a lot of time on each of these items. In fact, I'd come back to the board and say, well, you started off from the wrong,
I see.
in the wrong direction, went in the wrong direction. And so that's what I'm trying to get a sense of. Do we have any kind of input at this point on any of those items that gives the committee direction as to what the concerns and the goals of the board are in having this discussion take place with the other entity?
Sure. Well, a lot of the discussion has been of the previous discussed agreement. And that agreement was actually voted unanimously approved by the city council. And just take item 1, the term of the agreement. I believe it was 20 years. Audits were to take place, if I remember right, I don't have it before me, every 3 to 5 years? 3 years?
What if you read the question, I can tell you what we're preliminarily discussing now.
Zarka, let's just go down the list
Okay.
then, and so
Sure.
that we have this good, open,
No.
honest discussion. And
Yeah, that's fine.
sure, okay. So the term of the agreement and under what circumstances each party could choose to reopen or terminate.
I think that one of the things that we brought to the attention of all parties was that if this was a standalone agreement, it would change if it turned into some sort of an element of a pre-annexation agreement. Because if a city annexed some portion of the land, then there may or may not be interest in changing how that sales tax would be allocated. So that was one of the items that we've been discussing. The other is, whether or not this is a true pre-annexation agreement, or is it strictly a standalone sales and use tax agreement? In terms of the term, we were using the same term that was discussed a couple of years back, which was 20 years. And how you get in and out of the agreement, there would be essentially an option for either party to leave. Now, here's a scenario where there might be good reason to get out of the agreement. Going over the next 5 years, the country heads into a full-blown depression. It's no longer a recession. You're not seeing sales tax increase. In fact, you're going far below the amount that you've collected in previous years. Under the way, one of the discussion points that we've been talking about is that if 3 years go by and you are collecting less, you would in fact not have to pay for those 3 years. If 3 years go by and you're actually collecting less, by the end of the 3rd year, on the 4th year, your original amounts would reset to a lower amount. Maybe that would, maybe one or both parties would say, we can't go that route. It's too little money. We simply can't deliver services. We need out of this agreement. So there are outs. So it's not that you're locked in for a 20-year term. It gives both parties flexibility under different scenarios to exit the agreement. Next.
Yep. What should